Hello everyone, this is The Question, and in this video I'm going to be showing my 20 favorite manga reads of 2023. If you've watched any of my videos in the past, I don't read a lot of ongoing series until they're completed, so everything in here is going to be a completed series, a one-shot, a short story collection, but you're going to there's going to be no ongoing series in this, no volume ones, nothing. Even if I really enjoyed a volume one, this is just completed stuff that I've been able to read to the end. And why am I doing 20 instead of 10, instead of 5? I just always, whenever I make a list, I like doing my 20 favorites. I don't know why, I just really like doing it. So I'm going to make this video not be that long, each one of these, I'm really only going to spend like a minute or so talking about them. If you want any more in-depth thoughts, please let me know in the comments so I can let you know a little bit more of my thoughts on them. But I didn't want this video to be, too much over like 20 minutes long. Kind of just a really quick synopsis of each series and my really quick thoughts on them. So let's get right into my 20 favorite reads of 2023. Okay, so starting off at number 20, we have The Black Museum, The Ghost and the Lady, Book 1 and 2 by Kazuhiro Fujita. This manga follows the real-life Florence Nightingale, known as the mother of modern nursing, as she tries to improve the lives of patients in various hospitals during wartime. So there are aspects of this story that are historically accurate, with footnotes and works cited at the end, but what separates this from a standard historical manga is the supernatural additions. So in this series, she ends up meeting a spirit named the Man in Gray, who is on the cover here. So that's the Man in Gray, who is tasked with taking her life, but ends up befriending her and protecting her along the way. So in this world, there are ghosts that Florence can see, but also larger spirits called eidolons that feed off people's negativity and grow quite large and disturbing looking. So some of the high-ranking people she runs into along the way, they have these eidolons attached to her. And so there are plenty of scenes with the Man in Gray getting into battle with these eidolons. The artwork in this series is very unique, kind of detailed, as you can see in some of these pictures, very detailed, but also kind of cartoony and messy at the same time. I really wished we had more from this creator in English, because this, as far as I know of, this is the only series that we've gotten from this creator in English. The story is really well told. This is a very good kind of horror supernatural series with a lot of interesting characters. It moves fast, and this duo, they meet a lot of great, they make a lot of great friends and enemies along the way. Just a very fun series. The volume 1 I know is readily available. I think volume 2 is a little harder to find, but if you can find this, definitely grab this series or read it however you can, because it is a really fun series. Okay, at number 19, we have Fruits Basket in these collector's editions from Yen Press. I read through all 12 of these collector's editions. This series is by Natsuki Takaya. Fruits Basket is a classic fantasy high school romance series. It follows our lead character Toru here as she becomes homeless and ends up being taken in by the Soma clan, who have 2 of her fellow classmates in their house. So she finds out their secret that they have been cursed, and each member is an animal of the Chinese zodiac, and if hugged by a member of the opposite sex, turns into that animal. So that premise is over the top, very silly, and I went into this not knowing if I was going to enjoy this series, how I was going to feel about it, but it hooked me in with its large cast of characters. They're all given detailed backstories, and the growth that we see in them throughout the series really makes you connect with them. It gets a lot darker in spots than I was expecting. There's some really serious topics that happen throughout here, and the artwork, while having some ups and downs as it goes throughout the series due to the creator's medical issues, which are mentioned in kind of like the little footnotes and stuff throughout the series. They fit the series really well. This is an all-time great romance series. It holds up really well even 20 or so years after its original release. Okay, at number 18, we have Donuts Under a Crescent Moon. This is by, I don't know how to pronounce, is it Shio Use? Not sure how to pronounce that. That is my best guess. And this, like I said, a short 4-volume Yuri series. This is an adult office romance. Follows our lead here, who spends all her time trying to make others happy and be quote unquote normal by throwing herself into makeup, fashion, and falling in love. So this just makes her a self-doubting mess until she starts a friendship with a level-headed woman in her office who gets her to be herself as their friendship turns into romance. Donuts is one of my favorite Yuri series I've read. It has two main characters that actually feel like real human beings. They feel like real people. They have real discussions and real problems. So if you're looking for a cute adult romance series, you know, you get a lot of Yuri series that are high school themed. This is a really good adult office one. Not adult as in content level, but more, you know, just featuring adults. This is one of my favorites, so definitely check this one out if you're looking for a cute, shorter romance series. So that is Donuts Under Crescent Moon. At number 17, we have Barbara by Osamu Tezuka. This is a very weird story. The story follows a famous author, Yosuke, who meets a drunk homeless woman named Barbara in a train station and ends up becoming fascinated by her. I'm going to try to show some pages that I can actually show. So he takes her home so she can get cleaned up and get something to eat. She moves in and becomes his shadow, and as the story progresses, both characters spiral into chaos, with jealousy, booze, and the supernatural becoming the focus of their lives. So this is easily the weirdest Tezuka book I've read so far. It goes deep into the darkness of human psychology, with wonderful panels showcasing our lead's descent into madness. This is a very underrated Tezuka book if you're looking for something a little different than kind of the more lighthearted stuff he's kind of known for. This is very explicit. It is from the 70s. It does have some dated parts to it, like, you know, a lot of series that are written in the 70s, 60s. But yeah, highly recommended if you can find this. It is out of print, DMP release. So if you can find a copy for cheap or read it another way. But if you're a fan at all of Tezuka, definitely check this one out. Next up at number 16, I read through all of Orochi in these really nice perfect editions by Viz. This is a classic horror series by Kazuo Umez. This is a short story collection with our lead character Orochi as the connecting person throughout the stories. Like it says here on the back, she's a mysterious young woman who slithers her way into the lives of unsuspecting people, like the legendary mutilated serpent for which she is named Orochi. She tries to help out people and usually ends up making things worse for them. That's kind of the conceit of the stories. Each of the stories are creepy. Each one kind of feels like its own Twilight Zone episode. The art is fantastic. Besides the horror and kind of suspense that you get in these stories, there's also moments of comedy sprinkled throughout, with Orochi trying to help and, like I said, ends up making things worse for the most part in a lot of cases. If you are a fan of, you can tell by some of these panels, if you are a fan of Junji Ito, definitely check this series out, or any of Kazuo Umez's work, because Junji Ito, he was heavily influenced by Kazuo Umez. Orochi is probably my favorite of the stories. I have not read Cat-Eyed Boy yet, but I did really enjoy Drifting Classroom, but I liked Orochi quite a bit more than that series. So if you're looking for a classic horror series, you've moved on from Junji Ito stuff, definitely check out Orochi. And these really nice, perfect editions are collected in 4 volumes of all of the Orochi stories. Okay, number 15, we have Shunas Journey by Miyazaki. This is more of an illustrated story than a manga. Shunas Journey follows our lead Shuna here, who is prince of a struggling village. Show you some panels here. This is kind of what the panels look like. This is all fully colored artwork, watercolored. So Shuna is a prince of a struggling village, watching in despair as his people work themselves to death, harvesting the little grain they can grow, until a traveler tells him about a golden seed that could be the solution to all their problems. So he sets out on a journey to find this seed to improve the lives of the people in his village. If you've seen any of Miyazaki's films, you know he excels in world building and characters, and that is on full display here. The artwork is beautiful, the panels are all beautifully painted, and it has a great environmental message. So if you are a big fan of Studio Ghibli, definitely check this one out. This is Shuna's Journey. Okay, next we're on to number 14, and that is, I read through all of Inside Mari by Shuzo Oshimi. This is a Denpa release, 9-volume series. So Inside Mari follows our lead, this boy here, who is a college student with no friends, who drops out of school to become a shut-in and only leaves his house to go to a local convenience store with a cute high school girl working there. One day when he's watching her from afar, she makes eye contact with him and he wakes up inside of her body. So this body swap mystery thriller had me hooked pretty much from the start. Don't know how much farther I want to go into showing panels here. It is a very adult series. So if you haven't read any of Oshimi's work, you know the weirdness that you are going to find in this series. And if you haven't read anything by Shuzo Oshimi, this is, I think, a good starter series. I think this would be a good series to start with to see if you're going to enjoy his type of storytelling. It definitely gets weird. It gets creepy in spots. But one thing I really enjoy, I've mentioned this multiple times after I read any Shuzo Oshimi series, is that there almost always is an afterword. There's kind of some author notes in the back, and it is also in this series where he goes into way too much detail and gives us too much information about his own psyche and his own thoughts. And it kind of, as soon as you read one of those, you're like, okay, this is definitely a guy who wrote this very weird series. So Inside Mari, it's not going to be for everyone. Some people are going to be creeped out by it, but I found it really enjoying. It was a very fast read. I flew through these 9 volumes, really wanted to see where this mystery thriller was going. Highly recommend Inside Mari. Okay, number 13, we have Girl's Last Tour by Tsukumizu. This is a short 6-volume series released by Yen Press, and these really nice releases. This is a post-apocalyptic sci-fi story. Girl's Last Tour follows these 2 girls who navigate the ruins of civilization after an unknown apocalypse. The art style, as you can see here, it's kind of got a chibi, more cute art style, even though we get some very dramatic, emotional stuff going on in this story. This is more of a slice of life series than action, with the focus being on them exploring and just trying to find food and survive, with them occasionally running into other survivors and robots on their journey. I really enjoy these type of post-apocalyptic stories where they're more character-driven plot. It's more about survival instead of the typical post-apocalyptic stories where they're constantly fighting for their lives against zombies, other humans. None of that in this. This is an uplifting story about friendship in a bleak world. Like I said, gets emotional in spots, but very worth reading. I really enjoyed this. I know there's an anime series. I have not read that, but yeah, just a very, very good, heartwarming series. Really enjoy Girl's Last Tour. Okay, so number 12, we have River's Edge by Kyoko Okazaki. River's Edge follows the ups and downs of high school life for 6 teenagers in 90s Japan. With themes of being alone in the world and depression, River's Edge tackles heavy topics like bullying, toxic relationships, and death. The artist, as you can see here, has a very unique art style. It's not going to be for everyone, but I'm a big fan of her previous work that's been released in English. I really liked Pink. I really liked Helter Skelter. And this book was even better than my expectations. It was a fabulous character study. I don't want to go too much into the story. Like, it's an all-in-one, so I don't want to get too much into that. But great book. Great if you're into slice of life character stories, this is one for you, and hopefully we continue to get more of her work released in English. Okay, at number 11 we have Mothers by Kusahara Umi. This is a beautiful Glacier Bay release. Mothers collects 15 years worth of short stories by Umi, with this being the first time any of her work has been released in English. Like it says on the back here, 12 heartfelt stories exploring the emotionally fraught nature of human relations and the process both of giving and of receiving love. So these stories all have similar themes, like it says there, about mothers and about love. They are all in different styles. So some of these have fantasy elements, some of these have comedy elements, and some are very serious drama stories. But after reading through this short story collection, the first thing that popped up into my mind was Moto Hogayo, and the similar feelings I had after reading some of her short stories. So that is great company for this collection to be in. If you have never picked up anything from Glacier Bay, this is one that I would highly recommend. A really fantastic short story collection. I love short stories, and this is one of the best ones I've ever read. Okay, at number 10, speaking of Moto Hogayo, we have The Heart of Thomas. This is actually the last Moto Hogayo book I had in my collection that I hadn't read. I was kind of saving this one. I wanted to leave one because I don't think we're going to be getting too much more releases from her in English, other than we have They Were 11, I think is what it's called, gets released sometime later this year. And so this is in these really nice Fantagraphics hardcover. They unfortunately do not have this in print. They've mentioned that they are supposed to be reprinting this, but that has been mentioned for the last year or two, and it still hasn't been reprinted. So these are fairly expensive to find. Luckily, I found my copy. This is an ex-library copy, but in fairly good shape. I found this for super cheap on Amazon from a third-party seller, and I was not expecting it to be in as good condition as it is. So The Heart of Thomas takes place in a German all-boys school directly after a student, Thomas, commits suicide. The plot revolves around why the boy committed suicide, and then also why the new student at the school looks exactly like Thomas, although they have completely different personalities. So this mystery series was released in the early 70s. It has a, you can definitely tell by the artwork, it definitely does not feel like modern manga artwork, but it's still very beautiful. This is one of the earliest examples of BL manga. And like I mentioned, beautiful classic art. Plot is filled with twists and turns, and hopefully we get more Moto Gaio works released in English sooner rather than later, and hopefully Fantagraphics reprints this so more people have a chance to read it. Okay, at number 9 we have Run Away With Me Girl by, I'm not sure how to pronounce this creator's name either. I don't know if it's Batan. This is a beautifully drawn Yuri series, as you can tell by these covers, about two women who were in love in high school, but after graduation, Midori breaks it off, saying they're too old to be fooling around with girls, and breaks Maki's heart in the process. So 10 years later, with Maki never fully recovered from their breakup, she runs into an engaged Midori who, while talking about her future husband, raises some red flags about him for Maki, and she has to decide whether she wants to let Midori know she has never recovered from their relationship and possibly try to rekindle. So my favorite thing about this series, besides the beautiful artwork, I really loved the art style, the way these characters are drawn, but also it's about the characters. They are messy, they feel real, just like how I mentioned with Donuts Under Crescent Moon. It feels like real characters. The side characters are messy, have their own problems. Some of them feel like real shitty human beings. But as far as best looking manga, this is easily one of the best looking manga I read all year. And this short 3-volume series has this creator on my radar as someone to look for in the future. Okay, at number 8, we have Talk to My Back by Yamada Murasaki. This is a really nice drawn and quarterly release. This is a slice of life 80s manga about a suburban housewife trying to keep her own sense of self while raising 2 daughters and also acting as a mother for her rarely at home husband who expects his wife to do everything for him. So the artwork, very minimalist here. There's not a lot of heavy backgrounds, but really fits in well with the story. She becomes consumed by taking care of them, of her family, until eventually she finds her own outlets in getting a part-time job and then making and eventually selling dolls. So with themes of domestic inequality and personal freedom, there wasn't a lot of manga being released like this at this time, or back in the 80s, or even now for that matter. This is based on the creator's own experiences. She wrote this story as a single mother in her 30s. And in typical drawn and quarterly fashion, there is a fantastic 30-page kind of essay in the back focused on her work and then also other female artists of the time period. Just a really great essay. I really like when drawn and quarterly puts those in books to kind of give you some background about the history of the series or the history of whatever book or creator they're talking about. This is one that if you're a fan of more slice of life, more character-driven stories, this is a must-have in your collection. A very nice release, and the more people that buy books like this, the more we get releases like this in English. Okay, at number 7, we have another short story collection. We have One More Step, Come Stand By My Side by Toriyuman Takeda. This is a short story collection that came out of nowhere for me. I hadn't heard anything about this creator until picking this book up. I just saw it on a solicit when I was doing my pre-orders and thought it looked interesting. I really like short stories. And these 7 stories are all beautifully drawn. All of my favorite short story collections, they usually run the gamut of comedy, drama, mystery, very emotional storytelling, and there is all of that in this short story collection. The artwork is fantastic, as you can tell here. If you are looking for a collection that'll make you tear up and also will make you laugh out loud, this is the collection for you. I really enjoyed this one, and like usual, I really enjoy when they have afterwards. The creator here, has a few, has some paragraphs about every single one of the stories in this collection. Another one where I will now look for anything by this creator. I can't recommend this one highly enough for people who like short stories. Okay, at number 6, we have A Story of 7 Lives, the complete manga collection, released in this nice all-in-one by 7 Seas. This is by Shirakawa Gen, and this is a moving tale of stray cats and the humans who care for them. A Story of 7 Lives follows a house cat who, after a tragedy occurs, becomes abandoned on the streets of Tokyo and becomes friends with the stray cat he meets. The plot revolves around them struggling with survival, trying to find their next meal, and avoiding humans who want strays gone. So as a cat lover, who has volunteered at stray cat rescues, I've done trap, neuter, release with strays. This manga was tailor-made for me to enjoy. It doesn't hesitate on getting into the sadder side of outdoor cat life and the trials that people who care for cats have to deal with people in the community. So this story is not cute and cuddly. If you're looking for that, this is not that. But like it says on the back, this is a heartfelt tale of cats' survival and hope. So if you're looking for something with that in it, this is definitely one for you. Just a really great all-in-one collection with a great story. Number 5, we have The Summit of the Gods. I read through all 5 volumes of this series by Jiro Taniguchi. This is based on a novel. And so I'm a big fan of Taniguchi's work, but I've been slowly going through his manga since I know soon I'm going to run out of his work to experience for the first time. So I'm about maybe 2/3 of the way through the Taniguchi books that I own. The Summit of the Gods is probably his most famous manga. Like I said, it's based on a novel. If I wanted to describe the plot, it would probably take me about 20 minutes to explain it. So just for a quick synopsis, it is a mountain climbing series, mystery series about Mount Everest and a camera that is found supposedly belonging to the famous climber George Mallory. So I was expecting this to be a slow, kind of more slower paced read, but it moves fairly quickly. As someone who has no interest in mountain climbing, I wasn't expected to be as pulled into the story as I was. The artwork, as usual, as you can see here with Taniguchi's artwork, very detailed, very breathtaking kind of mountains and faces, but the overarching mystery and the cast of characters is what really drew me in. That's what really connected me with the story. I can easily see why this is considered to be one of Taniguchi's top manga, and I'm really grateful that Panetmon Fanfare has been releasing so much of his work in English. As far as kind of older creators, Panetmon has really focused on Jiro Taniguchi, and we've gotten the majority of his work released in English. So great collection. Definitely check this one out if you haven't read any Taniguchi. I highly recommend this one. This is a great starter one also. Okay, so moving along, we are at number 4. So we have The Music of Marie by Usamaro Furuya. So this is my new favorite Furuya book. The Music of Marie is a sci-fi story about a world where a giant mechanical goddess, Marie, flies around above them, worshipped by the people down below. So there is one boy in this world who can hear Marie's music, and he becomes obsessed with her. Trying not to show anything inappropriate here, but really beautiful artwork. The world building in this is top-notch, very reminiscent of Miyazaki's work with the building designs of various countries, with their unique way of lives, and the focus on love and technology. So I love weird sci-fi stories with more focus on characters and moral decisions over action, and this is exactly that. If you're looking for something weird sci-fi, I highly recommend The Music of Marie. Number 3, we have Kinos Journey, The Beautiful World. So back like 15 plus years ago when I was watching a lot of anime, one of my favorite series was Kinos Journey. So I hadn't seen it in forever, but I found out that there was a manga series of it. I knew I wanted to read it, even though I kind of only vaguely remembered what the anime was about. I remembered it being about Kino kind of traveling around with this talking motorcycle, and that is the basis for the series. So it follows our lead, Kino, traveling from country to country with her trusted companion, a talking motorrad called Hermes. And each country or city that they stop at has very different customs, different people, different way of life. And Kino's rule is to never stay longer than 3 days at any one place before moving on. So the only thing really keeping this from being my number one is that it doesn't wrap up as well as I would have liked. It is a shorter 8-volume series, and it doesn't wrap up poor. I mean, it's not a bad ending. It just doesn't have the kind of real good wrap up that I was hoping for. So throughout the series, there are creator notes, and it mentions that this was originally a light novel series. And so I haven't really gotten into light novels, so I was like, perfect, this will be a great one to try out. And then of course they have not been released in English. So this light novel series is ongoing and has been around for a very long time, but they have not been released in English, which, you know, was very sad. It looks like Tokyo Pop a long time ago released a poorly translated first volume in English, but that was it. And that nothing else. And, you know, so hopefully someday I'd really like to get to see this series in its original light novel format, just to check it out, because I really do love this world. I really enjoyed this manga. I know there was like a second anime version of it too. So for a series that's fairly popular, it's kind of surprising with as many light novels as we've gotten in English, as many different light novel series that I see, that we haven't got this one released. So hopefully someday. Okay, so we're down to the final two. So at number 2, we have Beastars by Paru Itagaki. I read through all 22 volumes of Beastars this year, and I also read through the 3 side story volumes of Beast Complex. So Beastars is a high school series that takes place in an anthropomorphic animal world where carnivores and herbivores are trying to coexist, and where eating meat is illegal. But one day, one of the herbivore students is murdered and eaten, and that starts a divide between the two groups. This is another manga series on my list with superb world building, with a fully realized world and characters. The interaction between the different types of animals, both inside the school and in the seedier sections of the town, are very well done. It hits all your typical high school manga tropes with stories about friendship, romance, and rivalries, but it's all done in a very interesting new way. The art is amazing, very unique, and if you enjoy this series, the side series, Beast Complex, is fantastic also. It is in the same universe, but tells different stories with different characters, although you do get some characters that are in both, that are from the main series that end up in this kind of spin-off side story series. But highly recommended if you really enjoy Beastars. Definitely read through Beast Complex also. Fantastic series. Can't recommend this one enough. Okay, so number 1 on my list of my favorite manga series that I read through in 2023 is Cross Game. I read through all 8 of these omnibus volumes from Viz. This is by Mitsuru Adachi, and this is the best sports manga that I've ever read. It is a moving coming-of-age story about a young boy, Ko, and the 4 sisters who live down the street from him, who are a huge part of his childhood, and the game of baseball that connects them all. So the main theme of this book is friendship and, you know, growing up, childhood, and these are some of the best characters, some of the best, you know, children characters that I've ever read in a manga, and then also one of the best romances that I've ever read. I'm not a big baseball fan, but Adachi does a fantastic job of making you feel the emotion and tension throughout the games. And I have never been more surprised by a moment in a manga series than while reading this. Something happens fairly early on that kind of blew my mind and I was not expecting. The cartooning in this series is some of the best I've ever seen in a manga and fits perfectly with the story. I can't recommend Cross Game enough. I really hope Viz reprints this. I know most of these volumes are out of print. I don't think they're crazy expensive, but it's not readily available, I know that. and it is a real crime that we don't have more of Adachi's work released in English. I know he's released a lot of longer sports series, a lot of different series, and Cross Game is really one of the only ones that we have released in English. So I'm looking forward to reading more of his work. But yeah, that is my number one read of 2023. Okay, so that was it. That was my top 20 favorite reads of 2023. If you disagree with anything, have any recommendations for me, please let me know in the comments. Otherwise, I will see you in the next video. Thanks a lot.